It was the major battle in the war between Melbourne and Sydney that kick-started the 2024 AFL season. Brodie Grundy had been unwanted by Melbourne in the back half of 2023 and was free to look for options, picking Sydney and being traded for pick 46 and a 2024 second round selection. It was the second time Grundy had been disowned by a club, as only 12 months earlier Collingwood moved off him in the 2022 trade period. It ended up being a great night for Grundy and Sydney, and it also reminded me of some other times former players got revenge on their old clubs. But let's go back to Thursday night. It was a physical and tactical masterclass by Grundy on his old running partner. Gawn said it best himself. He definitely got me around the ground, and I found it incredibly tough out there today. The constant bumps and hits from the Swans wore down Big Max, and the second half is where Grundy truly influenced the game. His 16 second half touches resulted in 23 overall, but the 15 contested possessions and 9 clearances is where the difference was seen. Now the damp and humid conditions suited the follow-up game of Grundy compared to Gawn's aerial advantage he normally asserts, but even in the hitouts, Grundy did fantastic, having 13 hitouts to advantage to Gawn's 8. And the tactical element of beating Gawn to the middle of the bounce limited his ability to get really clean and fast-paced hits to Petrarca, Viney and Oliver. It was genius and something that will get copied throughout the year. Grundy's 13.5 player rating destroyed Gawn's 5.5. But it doesn't get any easier for Grundy, as next week he faces his other old team in Collingwood. His second half was huge, Longmire said on Thursday evening. He just kept going, just kept ploughing through. His second and third efforts, his work around the footy was enormous. I just feel really pleased for him. He's got that one out the way, and now he can settle into his season, and he's got another big one next week against the Pies. But for now, Grundy can enjoy a little bit of payback against the D's. Before Brodie Grundy, Adam Treloar was shipped out of Collingwood too. He was a star at the Pies, but due to salary cap squeezes, he alongside Tom Phillips and Jaden Stevenson were traded in the 2020 trade period. The stacked Bulldogs midfield got another piece to fit in, swapping picks 14 and a future second rounder for Treloar, while also gaining some picks to bid on Jamara Ugle-Hagan. It was a last minute shock to end 2020, and it was set up that 2021 would see the Pies host the Bulldogs on Friday night to kick off their seasons.
Dumps it out into some open space, here we go. Listen to the boos and the cheers in equal measure. Jams it down the throat of Norton. Wonderful first touch for Treloar.
Light boos rang around the MCG as Treloar laced out Norton with his first touch as a Bulldog. He mainly played on a wing that first game due to a limited pre-season, but combined well with the other midfielders to finish with 18 disposals. The quick start by the Bulldogs was never seriously threatened, and they ran out 69 to 53 winners. Although he was booed early on, when Treloar touched the ball late, he gathered a raft of cheers from the Collingwood supporters. A great send-off for a player that never really wanted to leave.
Just a little cleaner forward of the ball, and may well have been a lot closer. Treloar.
After 32 games over 3 years at Geelong, Jordan Clark was never fully given the opportunity to shine. Now the Geelong defence from 2019 to 2021 was fantastic, so it was hard for Clark to break in, but with his pace and attacking mindset, the former pick 15 was viable for a lot of clubs. Geelong CEO Steve Hocking at the time said this about Clark: "For our younger players, you have to do the work. If you do get an opportunity, you need to grab it with both hands and push past some of those experienced players," Hocking told 3AW Sports Day. I think Melbourne have proven that and are a great example of that. That's the comment I would make around Jordan Clark. Well, for essentially pick 22, he headed back home west to Fremantle, but he hasn't gotten revenge once or twice, but all 3 times he has played them. The first matchup was Round 7 2022 at GMHBA Stadium and was at the time a landmark victory for Fremantle. Freo was up 17 points at the end of the third quarter and held off the fast finishing Cats. Clark had a day out, finishing the game with 24 disposals, including 9 in the last quarter. And we go back to last year, with the Dockers sweeping Geelong, first at home in round 10, with Clark again being solid with 19 disposals. Then in round 20, they met again at GMHBA Stadium, with Fremantle out-tussling Geelong to win by 7 points, while Clark gathered another 19 disposals. Now the two teams only meet once this season, and it's in round 22, so Clark, if available, will have the chance to go 4-zip up against his former club. And moving back to last year specifically, Blake Acres and Tom Mitchell fit in a similar category. Acres had a fantastic 2022 for Fremantle on the wing, having a breakout season, including 24 and 27 touch games in each of their finals, and he had looked to have found a role. He did, but not at the Dockers, as they made cap room to launch at Luke Jackson. For just a third round pick, he became a Blue, which looks like one of the best cheap trades in recent history. Even his contract, which is estimated to be only $350,000 per season, is well under what Acres would earn if he was a free agent on the market. Not only did Acres and Carlton destroy Fremantle in round 17 last season by 53 points, but Acres was so important for the Blues as they made a preliminary final, whereas Fremantle struggled all season long and could never really find a solid replacement on the wing. Then there's Tom Mitchell. He did get subbed out against the Giants in opening round, but for pick 41 and 50, Hawthorn back in 2022 clearly just gave him away. He had his ups and downs for Collingwood in 2023, being subbed off twice in the back end of the year, but when it mattered, he was great. One of the games he was subbed off from the field was against Hawthorn in round 21, and at that stage, it wasn't looking so good for him. He had just 11 disposals, and the young Hawks overpowered Collingwood by 32 points. But they steadied from then on, and Mitchell elevated his play, not dipping below 21 disposals for the rest of the year. In the grand final, his 24 disposals, 13 tackles and 7 clearances made him one of Collingwood's best on the day, and after losing in 2016 as a Swan, his underpriced move to the Pies rewarded him with a premiership medal. So for this season, who are some players who have the chance to get their revenge on teams who just let them go? First off has to be Jack Ginnivan. It was a mutual breakup, but Collingwood definitely seemed to have enough of his antics. Round 4 will see the two meet once again in a blockbuster matchup before they meet later in round 19. Ross Lyon and the Saints shipped Jack Billings off to Melbourne for just a future third round pick. Although he was sub on Thursday, Billings will be a good shot of being in the playing 22 when St Kilda play Melbourne in round 11. Taylor Adams, James Harms and Nick Caulfield are other players who will surely be looking forward to facing their old clubs, even though their trades were probably more self-volunteered. If you can think of any other players in recent time that got some form of revenge on their old clubs, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be back soon.